Hey, we're back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm John Lincove.
And I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
We do have some news, some real news that is from Consumer Reports, from our own studies of car prices. Car prices are expensive, and we hear it from a lot of our readers, viewers, members. One example, Tito here left a comment. Can you guys speak about these ridiculous new car prices? The median income in America can't keep up or afford the prices of these new cars. And our report on the cost of new cars, we looked at data that's out there. The average new car sells for nearly $39,000. And Tito's right. That's almost $8,000 more than the median income for an individual in the United States. So, you could work a whole year and not put all your money towards a car and not even be able to get close to it. But those numbers aren't necessarily because all cars are getting more expensive. It's mostly the high-end vehicles, right, Jen?
Yes, and the key word there is average. So what has happened to that nearly $40,000 average in 2020 is not that, you'll often hear the narrative, all these additional safety features or these infotainment gadgets have made cars more expensive. But the truth is, it's actually the choices people are making that has driven that average up. There's been a significant increase in people buying cars that cost greater than $70,000. Conversely, vehicles that cost less than $40,000, that has actually decreased. So the average is being driven by the choices, more luxury vehicles, more high-end vehicles, than necessarily all of the additional features being added. In truth, you look at, we took a number of our test cars and adjusted them for inflation. And in today's dollars, adjusted for inflation, there's many vehicles that have all of those that actually cost less in today's dollars. Vehicles like the Subaru Forester or the Toyota Corolla, loaded with all of that stuff, but actually less expensive today than they were when we began years ago when we started the analysis. So it's just the vehicles people are choosing, not necessarily the additions of features.
Yeah, because you hear people say, back before cars had to have airbags and back before, all these features, AEB, automatic emergency braking, that's what's driving the cost up. But in reality, you can get a Corolla today that's a safer, better car in every way, and it's going to cost you less, right?
Yeah, well, definitely. One thing, if I could jump in, it's the luxury manufacturers who are driving up the price with things such as AEB, and not that AEBs cost it, but the only way to get it is to get expensive options. The only way to get forward collision warning, where it's standard on a $20-something thousand Corolla or a Camry, but on an $80,000 car, you have to buy the sunroof package, or you have to buy the Bang & Olufsen stereo package, or you have to buy some other thing such as a special design interior. Then you can get that option, that feature, that key safety feature. So that's another aspect of it, that if you really just want a nice car that's safe, you then have to put on lard on more options.
Yeah, it's those extras. The other thing that we've noticed, and we've seen that even just compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, financing is really, people are much more likely to finance cars as wages are sort of stagnant, but car prices are even if it's cheaper to buy the same car today than it was 20 years ago. If your income hasn't gone up, you're going to have to make up the difference somehow, and that's going to be financing, right?
Yeah, if you look at the story, some of the data that was collected, from Experian, which is one of the credit monitoring agencies, it shows that people with very good credit scores, so 781 to 850, they're paying about 3.24% average. And, so that includes the zeros and such, but just that's the average, finance rate. People who have a very low score, 501 to 600 range, they're paying an average of 11.3%. And that's a huge amount of money adding into it. So now you have 11.3%. If you're in a 72 or 84 month loan, because you're not able to pay it off in 4 or 5 years, you're paying a ton of money. The monthly payment may look good. And it's easy for a dealer to say, like, you know what, that sunroof, you roll it in, it's $1 a month. Come on, something like that. But you're paying a ton of interest on it. So that's a huge issue. If you can't pay a car off 36, 48 months, and I know it's hard, I understand it. I've been there. We've all been there in the sense of, can we really get to this? But it may not be the car for you. And even leasing, because it's a lower payment, may not be worth jumping into that vehicle just because you're going to owe so much more on it than it's worth. You'll be upside down. You'll owe more than the vehicle's worth. So then you can't sell it or lease swap it out or do anything like that to get out from under it because you'll still owe money.
Speaking of shopping for cars that are not going to break the bank, we just got in a brand new vehicle from Kia. It's called the Carnival. It's the replacement for the Sedona, and Kia called their minivan the Carnival in the rest of the world up until now. We just finally caught up. It starts around $33,275, and it tops out around $42,770. Jen, you were the first person to spend some time in this, and you took it on the track. That's a cool part of our job. We can take minivans on the test track. Jen, how was your Carnival ride?
So true story. The other day, my husband and I are having this conversation, excuse me, about what car I'm going to buy when I retire. The plan is we're moving to Vermont. I envision like this gentlewoman farmer thing, some gardening.
Not anytime like really soon, right?
No, I'm very young, Keith. Come on.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say. I have to be a really early
She doesn't even
retirement.
qualify for the vaccine yet.
Yes,
No.
right. So skiing and gardening and antiquing. So I said to my husband, I think I'm going to get an all-wheel drive minivan. And he's like, you want a minivan? Like, it's still that stigma. So enter the 2022 Kia Carnival, or as Mike Monticello likes to say, the Carnival. But that is an SUV looking, maybe you guys disagree, but an SUV looking vehicle that really is a minivan underneath. Sliding doors, super access. So I must say, I was pretty impressed. So great interior, super roomy, super access, traditional controls, standard shifter. Kia and Hyundai, we've said many times, seem to keep it simple. A lot of really nice family amenities. You mentioned the dual screen entertainment for the second row. You can hit a button on the big giant front screen and see your passengers in the back through a camera view. You can talk to them even if they had earphones in, kind of the talk to cabin. Some of the features we saw in the introduction of the Odyssey a number of years ago. Family friendly. I think child seats will be great. I was very impressed with the powertrain. 3.5 liter V6, super smooth shifts, plenty of power for such a big vehicle. One area I think where it won't shine is in the handling. A little bit delayed. There is some roll. It's a big vehicle, and I was doing some of the handling circuit. So I think you'll hear that. But it's funny. I think of previous vehicles in this kind of idea of make it minivan functionality with not the minivan look. Mazda 5, loved that car. Kia Rondo, how about the Kia Rondo? I loved that car. And this is just going to fit right in. One thing, there is no all-wheel drive. So if I'm going skiing or something in my Vermont, I'm not sure I will miss that. I'm appealing to Kia to please add all-wheel drive to the Carnival.
Otherwise it's the Sienna or the Pacifica.
Correct.
Are your two choices for all-wheel drive.
Correct, which I'm completely fine with. It's so funny, the stigma around that sliding door. I just don't get it because I think it adds a lot of functionality. So interesting to see what we find on the Carnival.
Does this mean that the minivan is back? Or does it just mean that it's wearing slightly new clothes?
So it's not the Emperor's new clothes, but is the minivan back? I don't know if it's going to be the old Chrysler minivans of yore where everyone said, buy station wagons. We're into minivans. We still have SUVs. The minivan is just still here. But that's fine. It's better than going away. I think that, it's one of the things we talked about, the average of 22 miles per gallon, fuel economy, EPA rated at least, puts it kind of in line with SUVs, with a bigger SUV.
Even an all-wheel drive SUV.
And an all-wheel, and an all-wheel drive SUV. Let's see what happens in our testing, however, when we put it through our own fuel economy tests. some of the things like, look, the doors are complicated. I get it if people want to say in a sense of, I don't want to have something with the doors breaking. That is a Sienna issue. That is an Odyssey issue. The cables break, with a lot, they get a lot of use. It's a weak point. It just is. I didn't have a problem driving it around in the sense of handling, Jen. I didn't push it on the track at all, to an extreme. I drove it around last night because after family duties and such, I couldn't get to the track until 8:00. So I took it out on the back roads and on the highway, in those conditions and, speed limit and such. I think it's actually it's the anti-Sienna. It feels a little more tied down. It feels a little sportier, or just competent. You definitely feel wheel spin. There's a couple times pulling out from a stop on a faster road. You notice it's not all-wheel drive. It's a very cool vehicle. It's funny coming on the end of our previous conversation, that this top trim is $43,000, that's a lot. But you can get it at 33, you can get a nicely equipped version at 33,000 and you're not giving up something like, you have to spend more for all-wheel drive. You have to spend more for safety. It's all standard. So looking forward to driving our test vehicle, really seeing how that feels, because look, all the rented vehicles that we get from manufacturers, that we pay for to try out, they're all top shelf. They look great. They feel great. They're all buttoned up. They're luxurious. Let's see how the regular version is. But certainly very heady competition for the Sienna, for the Honda Odyssey, as well as the Chrysler Pacifica.
Yeah, this is that second row. It's an interesting second row. There's no middle seat, right? No one gets stuck in the middle, sort of, right?
Well, it has a 3-row. You could fold it down as an armrest. You could fold it up to be a three row across, or you could do like kind of an opposite McLaren, and you could push that center row seat way back. So you have someone who sits a little further back, and you don't have necessarily siblings, against each other. It would be interesting to see a child seat. Is that a good fitment for a child seat back there? So you have a little more space. They're not doing that whole, once you put the child seat in, now you're losing space on the sides. Maybe that fits better. Once that seat's back, though, you can't raise the third row seats. I tried doing that with the seat back. So you once they're down if you push that seat back. So it'd be interesting to see also playing with more configurations.
Or in Jen's case, just putting all the seats down and filling it with more antiques for the collection and skis and mulch and whatever you do in Vermont.
Yes, you got it. You got it.
We'll definitely have some more information on the Carnival very soon. We're in the process of buying our own right now. Before we move on, we probably should. We just wanted to take a moment to let you know about the donation program that can help fund Talking Cars. So if you're not aware, Consumer Reports, we're a nonprofit. All the work that we do is funded by memberships as well as donations. If you can give, it really does help us keep doing the work that we do. And that work includes this show. It includes buying cars so we don't necessarily get the primo versions from the manufacturers, so we can test them on our own terms. And that's important work. Nobody else does it. You can find more information at cr.org/givetalkingcars. Another way you can contribute slightly differently is by sending questions to talkingcars@icloud.com. And we love video questions. And Adam from San Jose sent us one. So we're going to hand it over to Adam.
I drive a 2010 RX, 116,000 miles on it. I normally get rid of the car at 15 years or about 150,000 miles. But you've been reporting recently that the used car market is hot and the new car market is cooled off. So is now a good time to sell the used one for a couple bucks more, buy the new one for a couple bucks less? I like the RX. Smooth, comfortable ride, quiet, bulletproof reliability. But you've been saying a lot of good things about the GV80. What's your comparison of the two? Which one do you like better? Oh, I know, tough question. One more thing, you have a great podcast. It's entertaining and it's informative, and I enjoy watching it every week.
All right, Adam. Now, we would never mislead you, but we must say that the pricing of cars right now is a really dynamic and fluid situation. So, the latest problem to hit, and probably happened, just within the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing it really becoming an issue, is, those safety features, those infotainment features, those fuel economy features in new cars. The reason they can exist is because of these microchips. And for various reasons that we don't want to get into this podcast because it's way too long, but you can read about it all over the place. There's a worldwide shortage of microchips that are necessary to be building vehicles. Toyota, who owns Lexus, has a stockpile, but there are still ripple effects. So, someone who might be looking for an Acura MDX might decide, I'm going to go and get a Toyota because there are more of them. The problem with your plan, Adam, is going to be finding a new RX. I took some time. I searched, and at least, as of March 31st, I could find no new RXs, any kind, hybrid, RX 350L, long wheelbase, within 40 miles of San Jose. So, unless you want to, if you want to travel and drive to somewhere else, and the South, the East Coast, I found a couple of deals on the RX, but otherwise, you're probably not going to be able to make up for the amount that you get. Jen, he also mentioned the Genesis GV80, which again is really expensive in the Bay Area. But what about the car? Compared to the RX.
Yes, I will say in the comparison between the RX and the GV80, I think these cars have very different characters. I think the GV80 is a more sporty feeling car, a little firmer ride. Lexus has always been the quiet, less sporty feel, kind of softer ride, softer steering, as opposed to the new GV80. The GV80 also, pretty new, does not have, as Adam describes, the bulletproof reliability of the RX. So you'd be taking a little bit of risk there, particularly because it's new. My vote would be stick with your RX, either keep the one you have or wait until the iron's hot, get a new RX. If you really got your heart set on the GV80, give it a couple of years. Hang on to your RX. As you said, it's got tons of miles left in it.
What about in the meantime, John? What about considering something like a lease?
Certainly as a lease, one of the benefits of going on with the car prices is that some vehicles, not everyone, but some vehicles won't depreciate nearly as steeply as they would have in a more normal or calmer environment. You can look online to see what the current lease residuals are for some vehicles, what percent, how much they're holding their value. The Lexus is one that holds its value. You could do something like that, sell the Lexus for a premium on a private sale. Take that money and lease for a couple years. If the residual's, super high, you'll owe a lot more on the back end. But you could then decide to buy another vehicle. You could buy a used vehicle. You could give yourself a buffer. It's like anything that's going on, housing market, whatever. You could sell high, but then you got to buy back in, and that's where the problem is.
Right.
Yeah, and you got to find one.
Yes, right. My eye doctor is on like his 8th RX. He just keeps leasing and leasing and leasing and leasing. Adam might be like him.
There we go. How much are you paying for glasses? So Lauren from Austin, Texas has a question. I've noticed panoramic sunroofs gaining popularity on more non-luxury car models. How is safety evaluated for this feature? Besides the possibility of more glass shattering on passengers, does it interfere with rollover protection? Jen, what's up with panoramic sunroofs other than them adding to the price of cars?
Yeah. So what, we've covered that some of them with flaws in the glass production are shattered outside of a rollover, but that's another whole story. But in terms of rollover protection, two things are key. One is electronic stability control has reduced the potential of many vehicles for rollover, though they still happen. And your main defense against ejection, which is what a sunroof would be another exit point, is your seatbelt. I just want to put those two things out there. With that said, the tests right now that would be most important to Lauren are the rollover rating from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, new car assessment program, the 5 stars, they do a rollover evaluation. So that's first. And the second is the roof strength test, which is conducted by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and was designed specifically to mimic the loads on a roof during a rollover event. So you've seen actually, and we see the results of that test with some slightly wider pillars that are increasing that roof strength. if you look at that test, it's conducted kind of at the front corner of the vehicle and pushes in. It doesn't really engage the sunroof, particularly. It's against the pillars. The other thing is that even with those things in mind, we have seen some research that talks about countermeasures for even the shattering. So be it a bonded film that's wedged between the layers of glass that prevents the shattering, or what they're calling roof curtain airbags that deploy across the width of that panoramic sunroof to prevent ejection and improve outcomes too. So again, that research is going on. But again, if it's something you really want, and they are very nice in terms of feeling like greenhouse inside your vehicle, look at rollover ratings from the New Car Assessment Program, safercar.gov, or IIHS.org for the roof strength tests on a car you are considering.
These days, it feels like I can see better out the top of a car than sometimes to the back and sides. All right. So Kevin has a question. I live in the Northeast, and for the last 25 years, my vehicle of choice has been a 3/4-ton diesel truck. I typically purchase an extended warranty due to high repair costs associated with any potential engine issues. My needs for a heavy-duty truck have changed, and I'm thinking of going for a smaller, regular gas pickup. Should I still consider an extended warranty? Great question. It depends on the truck. So, go to cr.org, look at CR's reliability. In general, those big, powerful, expensive diesel engines that are sold in low volumes in HD trucks are going to be more expensive to fix. But still, if you want a truck, make sure that you buy one that's reliable, that you're not going to have a lot of problems with anyways. If you do still decide to go with an extended warranty, make sure that you negotiate it. And call up other dealers too. We've tried this, calling from dealer to dealer. They can offer different prices on the exact same thing. But if you do decide to go with it, negotiate. And you don't have to buy it in the moment too, right?
That's right. You could wait and, see how it operates, how the vehicle handles. You want to wait a little bit. You don't want to wait until it's out of warranty, because then you don't have as much information, but you're also then kind of at the mercy of buying from the dealer, because now you need it desperately. So if you still have the warranty, it's a better time to go and look and shop around. Keith, my brother-in-law, did the exact same thing with the Toyota Tacoma. Bought the Tacoma. He got an extended warranty at another dealer. Wasn't something I suggested he do, but he did it, and he negotiated, and he got it at another Toyota dealer. So totally possible to do that. But like Keith said, make sure it is a factory-backed one. You don't want to get into a situation of buying a third party and they only cover this, but you have to take it there. And, it becomes much more a hassle than it's worth. But
if they're calling you, that's a good sign that it might.
Right. The guy calling you, your warranty hasn't run out, and don't buy it over the phone on the cell phone.
Hello,
it's an awful, annoying experience. Yeah. We're not joking, but unfortunately, it's a part of our life now.
Yeah. If you've got an extended warranty that's running out and you don't even have an extended warranty,
exactly,
that could be a problem.
Yeah. For some reason, no one wants to give me an extended warranty in the medallion. I don't know why. Anyhow, Marina has a question. Many people talk about van builds on social media, but overlook addressing the importance of vehicle safety features such as blind spot monitoring, automatic emergency braking, etc. What do you recommend to new potential #van life buyers, particularly when considerable weight will be added with the conversion process? So I'm going to go to our own influencer, John Linkove.
My kids aren't here. My son is not here TikToking. I had to dive into this. If you're buying a new one, a Ford is the best choice, a 2021 Ford Transit, because it comes with a ton of safety features, or they're available. You get into the Chevrolet, you should get into the Ram ProMaster, the Chevrolet Sprinter, or not Express, excuse me. Not available. The features just aren't there. If you really want to spend a ton of money, you can get a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. They have a lot of safety features, but that's a whole nother level of expense. Adding to an older van, adding some features, you can add blind spot warning, but the technology isn't there really to put in a forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking system on an older vehicle. So, what you are really looking at is ABS, electronic stability control, those key types of safety features. So that's kind of where you are. Newer is going to be better. Buying a more late model van, of course, that is expensive on top of the expense that you have to do for conversion. So, that's the active safety component of this.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, if you're getting an old, Vandura or Econoline or something, at least make sure that you have the bigger mirrors so you can see. When it comes to that setup, Jen, what does that do to your tires, the weight capacity, your center of gravity? When I put a refrigerator in the back.
Exactly. You have to even come back one step before you're talking about the AEBs of the world. Is when these conversions happen, they typically add weight. And often to get headroom or, livability, they go upwards, be it a compressor on top, an unfolding tent that gives you more headroom in these vans, which increases the center of gravity. So the first thing, if you're adding a lot of weight to that vehicle, make sure your tires can accommodate it. What's the max load carrying ability of those tires? You may need to go up in terms of load carrying ability or size to take the additional weight. And when the center of gravity goes up, now, the rollover propensity, we were just talking about how that's kind of gone away with ESC. Make sure if you're going into an older van, ESC is so important because weight and height will increase that potential. And then the only other thing I would add is there are some aftermarket type of systems that can get you some of this capability outside of a brand new vehicle, some blind spot warning technology, even forward collision warning technologies that we've evaluated in the past. Maybe they're a good addition to an older van if you're not converting something new. It's the same thing we say about any used car. Buy as much safety as you can afford, in addition to the conversion.
And if you're doing the conversion yourself, make sure you weigh that stuff. It's not like a conversion van manufacturer. They're held to some standards and they're going to know what needs to be beefed up.
Also, just one thing to keep in mind, also stopping distances, because all that extra weight has to stop. And I think about it in the relationship to people who do track days where they give it more horsepower, then they do all these things for power and speed, and then they're like, no, I'm running the stock brakes, stock brake pads. These big vans are going to take an extra X number of feet to stop than the standard one.
Yeah. So before you hit the road, before you hit social media, do a safety check. Know what you're doing. But send us pictures of your van life. If you're out there doing van life and you've got AEB on there, send us a photo. So enjoy that. So as this episode of Talking Vans comes to a close, which I don't think anyone expected, you can send your questions about vans, cars, anything with wheels to TalkingCars@iCloud.com. And if you want to learn more about anything we talked about in this episode, whether it's new cars, car buying, safety, tires, all that stuff, there's going to be an article at cr.org that's going to answer your questions. Thanks so much for joining us this week, and we'll talk cars again soon.